Since we're getting closer and closer to the release of Dying Light 2, we've rounded up 6 things that you definitely want to know about. If you want more videos on Dying Light 2, make sure to drop a like and subscribe down below. There will be more coverage in the future coming soon. I'm Paradise Central, and let's start off by jumping into the details and the specs. The release date is February the 4th, 2022. It's releasing on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, as well as Switch with a cloud version. If you've already bought Dying Light 2, you can start to preload the game 2 days prior to the launch on February 2nd, so if you know your download speed isn't too great, you've got a 2-day head start to download it. For playing Dying Light 2 on your PlayStation 5, you're actually going to only need 32.5 gigabytes. On the other hand, if you're playing on the Xbox Series X or S version, you're looking at 72 gigabyte file size. And then if you're on PC, it is instead going to be approximately 60 gigabytes. So varying file sizes depending on the platform. So you guys have been warned the preload times and the sizes to expect so you can clear your hard drives ready and get downloading on February 2nd. There are several different supported languages with a whole variety for the interface and the subtitle options, and 10 different audio language options available, as you can see on screen now. Following on from this, the next thing we need to talk about is the roadmap that has been revealed, where there will be at least 5 years worth of post-release content. There's varying different things that are being added in month by month, as you can see on screen, from February to March to April to May to June. And then after June, when that first story DLC will be released, they plan to add in a second story DLC, new weapons, new enemies, new stories, new events, new free and paid DLCs, and much more. So they definitely are planning to support this game for quite a long time, up to 5 years after it comes out, which is always nice to see in a game like this, especially when there is online and co-op. So this will ultimately be a game that both you and your friends could go back to after a couple months and try out the new things that are added in. So I really like to see a long roadmap of post-release support. Next up, we need to talk about the big focus on choices and consequences. Essentially, you shape the future of the city with your actions and choices, and then you watch how it changes, and the balance of power between the factions within the game changes depending on those choices that you've made. We already know from gameplay trailers that have already been released, you essentially can choose between picking the survivors or the peacekeepers for having ownership over certain zones, and along with that comes different perks that the different factions give you, as well as visual changes to those facilities. However, from this official Dying Light tweet, we can also see that by picking either the survivors or the peacekeepers, it will change the ambient background music of that zone depending on your choice. So it seems like your choices determine the physical world in terms of the appearance of these zones, the actual benefits of the different perks you get within those zones, and even the background music depending on the faction you've picked. Moving on to the skill tree reveal next, there's actually 2 different skill trees, one for combat and one for parkour, and within each tree there's about 24 skills. They do also show a couple skills from each tree, and we'll start off by talking about the combat tree, where they have block charge, which essentially is where you can block and then charge forwards to knock enemies down. There's also a perfect parry, which I'm guessing is exactly as it sounds, and then a ground pound move like a superhero landing, where you knock enemies back around you. And then over in the parkour tree, they have a far jump. They also have a bash move, which allows you to charge through enemies. There's also a move called Tic Tac, which is basically a wall run. Next up, we'll briefly talk about the Paraglider. This is obviously something quite exciting and new in Dying Light 2. When you're flying the paraglider, you will slowly lose altitude and stamina, but we can see from this gameplay here that if you keep an eye out for air vents, which are very easily spottable by the visual puff coming out of them, it will actually boost you higher into the air and restore your stamina so you can fly even further. And then finally, we'll talk about co-op, because the game will have 2 to 4 player co-op, where you can basically jump into either your friends' worlds or they can jump into your world, and then you will basically be able to experience the different choices and consequences of their decisions in their world, and they can join your world and see yours. So it's a way to see the differences based on everybody's choices and different play styles. And there is apparently no crossplay at launch, unfortunately, but we can always hold out hope that that'll get added in at some point. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like down below. Let me know in the comments, are you excited for Dying Light 2? Did you play Dying Light 1? I'm a massive zombie fan, so I'm super excited. Of course, drop a sub on the channel if you would like to see more coverage. And if you are interested in more Dying Light 2 information, we've got you covered. Click on screen now for the next video on Dying Light 2.